cartoons of Muhammad, Charlie Hebdo. Obviously, it's in the religion to not depict the prophet, especially.
It's not in the religion.
It's not?
No,
okay, can you clarify?
Islam, like Judaism, is an iconoclastic religion. The belief is that you are not allowed to anthropomorphize God. And if you anthropomorphize God, you are limiting God in some way. So the opposite of Christianity, in which God is literally a guy, literally a man, not kind of a man, or think of him as a man, literally a person.
He's a guy.
Yeah. And so because of that, in both of those traditions, there is an eschewing of physical representations of God. So you will never see, in a synagogue, a picture of God or a painting of a God, or in a mosque. Now, what has happened in both of those traditions is that has then led to just a kind of a blanket prohibition of physical depictions of any prophet, so whether it's Adam or Jesus or Abraham or Moses or anyone, because the fear being that if you do that, then you might start to worship that person, that thing. Right. But it's not in the Quran. It's not part of Islamic law. It's just a tradition. It's a fairly well established tradition. That said, there are thousands and thousands of images of the Prophet Muhammad throughout Islamic history. Some of them are gorgeous. Some of them he's veiled. Some of them he's got fire around him. Some of them he's just in his face, as who he is. So it's much more complicated than that. But here's the thing. I think in the sort of Western imagination, the crime, if you will, is the depiction of Muhammad.
Right.
But that's not the issue, because again, there are thousands and thousands of depictions of the Prophet Muhammad over the last 1,500 years, and many of them have caused no problem whatsoever. It's how
the intent.
The Prophet is depicted. So you brought up South Park and you brought up Charlie Hebdo. Right. Now here's the difference between the two, is that South Park actually, in making fun of the whole thing, did it with an enormous amount of respect. The Prophet Muhammad was a superhero. Right. He was like this like superhero guy. So like if you're a Muslim, not if you're like some crazy like conservative jihadist, but if you're just like a mainstream Muslim, you watch South Park and you laughed. You thought that's funny and that's good and that's great. Charlie Hebdo, despite the sort of paragon of free speech that it has become since the tragic shooting, is a racist magazine that peddles in blunt racism. Its purpose isn't to make some very interesting political commentary by drawing Muhammad. It's to further disenfranchise that 7 to 12% of the French population that has been shat upon by the state for generations. And it's essentially to make a very clear argument. You either accept this or you're not French and get the fuck out. And that's in no way to, in the slightest way, justify the violence that occurred as a result. But they don't belong in the same category.
Right. And of course, what you've just discussed was completely lost on most of the world.
Of course it was.
Right, because everyone was rallying in support of this group.
Interestingly, it was not lost on the French.
Right.
Because no one in America had heard of Charlie Hebdo.
Right.
Before
but everybody changed their Facebook photos.
Yeah.
Right.
But in France, you see it all the time and you ignore it. It's the equivalent of the National Enquirer. You see the National Enquirer, you look at the cover and you're like, what a piece of shit this thing is, and then you move on.
And you know what it is. You know what you're dealing with. But the rest of the world, you didn't know these were just these incredible satirical martyrs.
Right, exactly.